you've got a wing of that. You've got a wing of people who are like, no, literally, right? Abolish the police. This system, this structure is broken, right? It disproportionately harms people of color. That's exactly what it was built to do, which is historically accurate. Policing was about the policing of non-white people. It was about the policing of immigrants. It was about the policing of labor activists, right, and of union members. It was literally about the policing of marginalized communities, right? So marginalized communities feeling a sense of alienation and a sense of and feeling over-policed. That's literally what the police were designed to do, right? So there are advocates who say we should abolish, we should blow it up and envision something different. This is not a new sentiment, right? Angela Davis, among others, have been writing very eloquently about what police abolition can and could possibly look like. There have been some smaller municipalities in the country that have actually abolished their police departments and have created alternative structures of policing, I should say. And then there's folks who are saying, look, no, we need to defund the police. Let me give you an example of what that can look like. Here in Memphis, annual police budget is $280 million, right? The next largest budget line is $50 million. But when you look at the budget, one of the things that struck me as particularly politically as well as morally problematic was that homeless services for the city of Memphis has a budget line of $230,000 for the entire city. The annual salary for the chief of police in the city of Memphis is $236,000. Right? The police chief makes more money than the entire budget for homeless services in the city of Memphis. We have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of homeless individuals. And so if we believe that budgets are a moral document, then this is a very immoral articulation of our values and our beliefs, right? So defunding means let's give over, right? Let's take $1 million off of the police budget and give it to homeless services. Give some of it to homeless services, give some of it to social services, right? To go ahead and actually fund the other places and spaces that have been systematically defunded over the course of the last 40 years. When my friends who come at me and really fret about defunding the police, I express confusion. And I say, I don't understand why you're confused about this concept of defunding. For the last 40 years, since the inauguration of Ronald Wilson Reagan, we have systematically defunded public education. We have systematically defunded social services. Like, we arrived at a point in the late 80s where we were shutting down mental health facilities and turning people out into the streets, right? We have been systematically defunding the public safety net and the social service infrastructure of this country, aggressively defunding it over the course of the last 40 years, right? So you're familiar with the term defunding. What you're uncomfortable about and squeamish about is the idea that police departments and police budgets should be distributed to other areas of the budget in cities.
We could argue about how best to frame this in order to get the largest coalition to get things changed, and whether we should use the word defund or abolish or refund or whatever language we might want to. That's a separate debate. But the minute you use any of that language, I find it interesting that the white community gets very nervous. They imagine themselves as being more vulnerable to crime. What's interesting is the population that is experiencing the most crime and might be most negatively affected by a lack of policing is in many ways the community that's willing to look at some different structures, because with all the money we're spending now, they still don't feel secure in their homes in many instances. either from criminals or from the police themselves. And so, you know, we have a disconnect here. I think the whites look at policing a very different way than people of color do. That's my first point. Second point is that, you know, I used to address this when I used to talk about the Black Panthers, and they had a 10-point program. And one of their points was release all people of color from jail because they haven't been tried fairly, and, you know, we'll take care of them. Well, you know, students, oh my God, no, we couldn't be letting people, all these bad people out of jail and so on. So it started that conversation about policing and incarceration and what it does and what other things it might do. The one thing I think whites need never to fear is the Black community understands about murderers, rapists, and robbers. They get that. And they are not looking for a system that makes violent crime easier to perpetrate. What they're looking for in this kind of moment is a system that works better than the existing system. The existing system may work reasonably well for whites in the suburbs. It ain't working very well for people of color, particularly in housing projects and so on. And the idea that they would consider different structures shouldn't surprise us. And I think when whites hear this discussion, they need to see through that language and understand the different interests and the different realities that are involved here.
The other reality the other question that we have to ask in this moment too is, you know, the extent to which people are comfortable with the status quo, right? I mean, that's the other reality here too. There's a nice swath of people. I'll keep it local in Memphis, who in effect their argument is, you know what, if some people have to get beaten up by the cops, if people of color and poor communities have to take the brunt of unethical or illegal behavior for me to feel a sense of safety, well, then that's a price I'm willing to let them pay for my sense of safety. Somebody said here recently that, you know, if we defund the police, then they won't be able to effectively and adequately respond to instances of, for instance, you know, abuse or sexual assault. To which somebody replied, well, wait a minute. Are you under the impression that the responses now are adequate? Right? In Memphis, we've got 10 or 15,000 untested rape kits. If your argument is that making these moves will make the Memphis Police Department less capable of tending to cases of sexual assault, well, they've proven themselves to be incapable now. So, you know, so that's the other thing that can happen in this moment, hopefully, right, is that we start to have some really serious and honest conversations about the actual quality of policing that not just people of color are getting, but that everybody is getting.